Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Tom Schmitz,
Present.
and Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Father Terry Hedrick with Church of the Resurrection on 37th Street to lead us in prayer. Father Hedrick.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, again, as the City Council of Bel Aire gathers, we begin this meeting by looking to you in the name of your Son, Jesus. We thank you for the promise that when we do gather together in Jesus' name, that you are present with us now by your Holy Spirit. So we continue to give you thanks because you are a good and gracious God, abounding in mercy, steadfast love, and faithfulness. And so this night, pray for the Bel Aire City Council, especially for Mayor Jim Benage, the council members, and all the leaders of this community, especially then for our first responders, law enforcement, EMS, and firefighters. Tonight, we pray together that you will reveal to the City Council the knowledge of your will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding in order that they may be fruitful in your service. And anoint them with the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose for the common good of Bel Aire, they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being for all people. And grant also that they may love mercy, do justice, and walk humbly with you. And finally, we remember the gospel, that God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. May each of us be ambassadors of that same spirit of reconciliation and peace. We ask all of this now in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus, who lives and reigns with you, Heavenly Father, and the Holy Spirit, our advocate and guide, the one who abides with us when we gather in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. This evening, we have scouts from Troop 585 to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to just come up to the microphone, that'd be great.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. On the consent agenda, I determined agenda addition. So I would like to add item 12B, to a second executive session to the consent agenda, and copies of that executive session motion have been given to all the city council members. Other than that, are there any other agenda additions to be made? Hearing none.
I've forgotten. Do we need to make some kind of motion to amend the agenda or just do it?
I do not believe we need to, but we can if you'd like.
It's not required, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to be legal.
That's fine. I know some organizations do it routinely, but I don't think it's a requirement, and our city attorney confirmed that. So move on to consent agenda. So the consent agenda contains only the minutes from the October 7th city council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
a motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Dean, or David. That's the right one here, yeah? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. We're on to the discussion of the approval of appropriations ordinance 2519. This appropriation ordinance encompasses expenses and one payroll cycle from October 1st through October 14th. Expenditures amount to almost $2,243,000. Of the reported expenses, just under $343,000 are infrastructure costs for new developments, and these costs are paid through special assessments.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 25-19.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. We have no city requested appearances this evening. So we'll move on to citizens' concerns. I have Mr. Gary O'Neill, who would like to speak to council. Mr. O'Neill. And you know the rules, name, address, and 3 minutes.
I know the rules. My name is Gary O'Neill. I live at 4967 North Hillcrest here in Bel Aire. I'd like to thank the governing body and the mayor for opportunity to come up with citizens' concerns. I know I got 3 minutes. I think I'll make it. I received this mailer in the mail this week from, suppose it says, paid for by the Kansas Republican Party, Roger Lomchek, treasurer, and has the Bel Aire mayor's choice for 3 candidates out of the 4 that are running. And a couple of things bothered me, and I'm going to go back to 1996 when I was first on the city council in Bel Aire, and I then attended a year, one Saturday a month at Hugo Ball School of Public Affairs. And I just want to talk about perception and reality. They talk to us constantly about the perception that governing body members show and how perception is reality with some people, whether the intention is real or not. Some people will take it as reality. When I see this, and it says in here that we have 3 Christian conservatives, one perception could be, well, is the 4th candidate that's running, does it say he's not a Christian and we wouldn't want him? That's one way someone could conceive it. So that bothered me. And I can't feature the Kansas Republican Party in Topeka wanting to get this involved in a Bel Aire election. So that bothers me. So I was going to try to get in touch with Roger Lomchek and find out why they were so interested and where the funding came from for this. One of the things they talked about in the Hugo Ball School had to do with unethical things, bad politics, and what things like this could bring about in the community. It can bring about discourse because somebody's going to get their feelings hurt because they weren't a chosen person. Another thing could be, I think 3 of the candidates maybe are all Catholic, maybe all go to the same church. Does this mean that the Catholic Church is running the governing body and you have to be a Christian and they only support Catholics? The diocese has a huge financial investment in Bel Aire. I would not like to think that the diocese is trying to run the Bel Aire governing body by having only resurrection people on the governing body. I have talked to some people that have been upset by this. They contacted me. You want to know what I thought about it? I said I would prefer that in the future that sitting mayors that are not up for election would not do this because it brings, I think, hard feelings against governing body members. It could also, depending on how the election comes out, if the 4th candidate that was not chosen by the mayor is elected by the citizenry, and he already has a hard feeling about working with the mayor and maybe some other council members. I just think this brings discourse, civil discourse, and I don't think we need it. And that's my opinion. I just wanted to express that, and I hope that in the future that we not resort to these kinds of things. If you want to go out and campaign, put signs in your yard and do those things, but don't send this out at the last minute. And
Okay, Gary, your time's way overdue. Let's wrap it up.
my
please.
3 minutes are up.
Oh, yeah.
All
But
right, thanks.
I'll try to let you go a little longer, but
No,
yeah,
that's all right.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other citizens who would like to speak to council? Hearing none, we'll move on to council member reports. We'll start with Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have one item. And unfortunately, it's a lengthy one, just because it's an important topic. So the KDOT local consult, I did attend that on October 8th. I believe that was along with Mayor, and I think I saw Tom there. I think I saw you there. I didn't
Yep.
interact with you while we were there, but there was also a lot of other local leaders, so it was great to see a great turnout. And most importantly, the K254 Corridor Development Association was very well represented, very well organized, which, we're proud to see that. We need to keep doing that. We relayed as a group the message of thank you to KDOT for hosting the meeting, also the completion of the corridor management plan and the K254 study for Rock, Webb, and Greenwich, which is currently in the design development pipeline, and also our desire to see that receive funding to go to construction. The good news is a great result for K254 was the Ohio Street interchange was in the KDOT list for rural expansion and received consistent support across the breakout groups from medium to high priority. This wasn't surprising, as Ohio Street was on KDOT's list last consult. It's been on their radar, and for good reason. This location has a significant impact on safety, as many in our local communities have tragically experienced firsthand with injury and fatality accidents. Butler County Commissioner and K254 Corridor Development Association President Kelly provided his personal testimony as well from his experience working as Butler County Sheriff. In addition, the current infrastructure is limiting economic growth with increased truck and commercial traffic from Interstate 35 via K254 to the North Junction, and more cars and our younger drivers from Circle High School in Towanda. This project has a lot of merit to getting done and getting done sooner rather than later. I know there were also several folks from Circle Schools in attendance. I wanted to I thanked them personally while I was there, but I also wanted to thank them publicly here and appreciate their willingness to engage in advocating for the 254 corridor. The somewhat expected news are new projects that we put together information on were included in the South Central Kansas Transportation Coalition tiered project list, but unfortunately we're not on the KDOT modernization list, at least this time.
Right.
In fact, only one project from the Wichita metro area found themselves on that specific list, and it was the 235 and Zoo Boulevard interchange for that specific category. Going in, we all knew this was just sort of the beginning for those efforts for those two projects. But the good news is it's on their radar. It's on the corridor management plan as it's on their radar as a regional project. It's also in our corridor management plan. During the consult, we visited with KDOT about these projects, gave them hard copies of our handouts, placed notes on their map. Also, I'm happy to report that I had discussions with several KDOT staff while I was there, and they mentioned specifically the short-term improvements of River Valley Road that they are currently in discussions with Towanda on. So it was great to hear that. It was also great to see one of their exhibits, display board, was that intersection and the short-term improvements. So it was just kind of great. And then one kind of final thing here, a big takeaway was the Northwest Expressway had strong support and was listed as a high priority. While I agree that this project could have a significant impact on our region, it also comes at a significant cost. In addition, at least in my breakout group, many struggled with how to prioritize a lot of those expansion projects, those sizable expansion projects. The one thing I pointed out was that the Northwest study really needs refreshed, which it is being refreshed. And that it's clear that those Northwest projects are just in a different stage of development than a lot of those other example projects, examples being West Kellogg improvements, main interchange at I-135 and Kellogg, several infrastructure improvements that could impact most everybody in our community, meaning we were really comparing apples to oranges. That really is kind of the feeling I had. And I said that verbally to everybody. And it really is important that we get that study refreshed, come back and reevaluate. It'd be, I think, a lot easier to see how it fits in priorities as well as with the rest of our regional transportation system. One of the speakers from KDOT said it well. We have limited funding and virtually unlimited needs. This is why local consult and other decision factors are critical for reviewing projects and setting priorities, depending on the project type. Modernization versus expansion, those are kind of the two main categories. The local consult is between 20 and 25% of KDOT's scoring in that evaluation of any specific project. So I'll end by saying, as we move forward, it is important, more important than ever, to continue to communicate, collaborate with other local leaders to find consensus on our regional project priorities to be more effective at local consult. We've heard this time and time again, when our voices are unified. The good example is Pete Meinster always mentions North Junction. when our voices are unified, it's just more effective with getting things done with KDOT. So I just wanted to mention that. And sorry it was a long update, but KDOT local consult only comes around every 2 years, so it's kind of an important thing. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for that good report. Mr. David.
Mr. Mayor, I was fortunate enough to attend the Bel Aire Fall Festival Saturday. It was great weather, great turnout. I personally had a little suggestion box, and I wanted to tell everyone that those suggestions have been passed on to appropriate people. Certainly a few Woodlawn comments, which we are all aware and working hard to resolve. And I just wanted to pass that on in general. Any citizen input like that really has an oversized leverage. It really does get a council member's attention and onto the council. So thank you.
Thank you. And that was a great idea. I'm glad you did it. So, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay, I did go to the consult for KDOT, and definitely the Northwest Expressway did get some attention, and that would increase basically traffic on 254, because then people would basically bypass Wichita to head west on 54. They'd come around, they'd connect it off 96 and route it around to 54 out by Goddard. So they said right now, and a lot of the focus at KDOT was safety, and they're saying the issue is people on the northwest side are complaining all these semis are going down the back streets because they'd rather do that than head through Wichita. And they said, we want to stop that issue. And so same way with 254, we're going to have more traffic. So people going to Bel Aire and south, they're having to cross that. It makes those interchanges that Tyler's talking about so important, because right now you're kind of playing chicken. If you've ever tried to do that crossing and there's a little bit of space, some people get in there and then people don't know and they turn. So it's very dangerous. So it's nice to have Woodlawn. So hopefully we can get Rock and others potentially to have interchanges and not playing chicken on that road. And then, so I think that was one of the main ones. The Zoo Boulevard was safety. Traffic is getting stopped and backed up because you have to go on that Zoo change. You have to make that quick turn right over the top of that bridge. So, I mean, so KDOT's really trying to figure out how to reduce traffic fatalities, et cetera. So in that vein, so now I'm going to move to the Fall Festival. Had sort of several good conversations with citizens. One of them that was brought up was the 53rd and Woodlawn interchange right now, which is only 2 stop signs, but a lot of kids that are going to the high school are crossing over that thing, and they're kind of playing chicken as well. And so you got traffic that doesn't stop, and we've added, hey, it doesn't stop. Do we need to consider a 4-way stop there? I know that's nobody likes more stops, but when it comes to safety and the amount of traffic, and we're growing and there's more homes and there's more everything. I mean, there's all kinds of traffic going through there now. Maybe we need to look at that as a 4-way. So just something else to think about. Another one was, this was Parks and Recreation, just somebody was suggesting when the kids get older, when do you separate boys and girls? Some of the moms were saying at 8 years plus, maybe we should have boys and girls. I know if we don't have enough kids, I get it. But I don't know, just something else. Another one was is there any way we can have bathrooms? When we were so I'm kind of switching to the Kansas Leadership Conference in Overland Park. We went to some of their parks. They had 3 of them they took us to. All of them had restrooms. And moms have said, hey, we have our kids and then we got to run, because if somebody has to make a stop, there's no restroom. So they have to leave and try and come back. So I know they're expensive, but I don't know if there's something we can do on bigger parks, maybe. I don't know. But when we went, so when we were at the leadership conference, I got a tour of Strang Park, which is really great park in Overland Park. And amazing amount of work those guys have to do, take care of all those parks. Bathrooms, they said the biggest issue is vandalism in the winter. During the summer, they don't have trouble, but in the winter, they definitely do. So that's just a little bit more to talk about on that one. And then with the leadership conference, it was good as well. That was for, we had a few from here go there. And we had a lot, I thought, insights on the parks, and I also got some insights on legal things with meetings, et cetera, which I thought was all good. So sorry for the long run, but that's it.
Very good. Thank you. One comment, and Ted, if you could get this we did, KDOT paid for a study of 53rd and Woodlawn intersection. And they made some recommendations a number of years ago with trans systems. Maybe we could refresh that or not refresh it, but at least let council members be aware of that study so that we're more aware of those issues. So, but thank you. I'll move on to Mr. Welch.
Well, basically, I have no report, but I do have some input. We've got a lot of intersections that need to be restudied. Webb Road in particular is getting really bad. There are times there when there's so much traffic, you have to sit for 5 minutes or more to be able to cross. So we need to be doing something. It may be stop signs, it may be stop lights. I don't know. We can't really afford roundabouts at all these places, but we need to do something.
Or traffic lights, right? Because traffic lights are more expensive than roundabouts now, from what I understand. So, okay, Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Kansas League of Municipalities Conference in Overland Park the 9th through the 11th earlier this month as well. I had bathrooms and vandalism on my list as well, talking to the park director there. They don't have a magic bullet either to prevent vandalism if we do put some bathrooms in. Just the typical things. Are we going to get property tax relief from Topeka next year? It's an election year. Will the cure be worse than the medicine? We need to keep an eye on that. I asked the league's attorney, besides that, what else do we need to keep an eye on? There's always a threat to our home rule. They'll make some zoning's going to come back in where they're going to try to do some top down, telling us what we can and can't do with our zoning here locally, which we would not particularly appreciate. So always good to have those informal conversations with vendors and other elected officials and city managers around the state. I appreciate all of the short-term rental feedback. I received a few other comments as well after our productive conversation last week, and I look forward to hopefully having another hearing on that as we kind of sort that out. And then last thing I'll say is end of soccer season on Saturday. Good chunk of rec staff is here. Thank you guys. It's always great. I think obviously the coaches that volunteer, but just they're not joking about setting a good example. They don't tolerate yelling at the kids or the refs or the coaches, and that is tolerated in different leagues. So it's a great environment. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So move on to the mayor's report. So I did also attend the KDOT consult, and Mr. Dean did a great job with reviewing that and with the supplements from Mr. Schmidt. So I won't repeat all that. The only additional thing I did suggest to them that KDOT take a serious look at the westbound exit off of 25th Street, because there is no westbound ability at 25th Street off of 235. And it obviously the interchange was designed to have one. Eventually, I understand the design work has been paid and the right of way has been purchased. So then you just need to move forward. That would relieve a lot of pressure off of that interchange at 235 and Zoo Boulevard. It's 4 miles from K96 to Zoo Boulevard with no westbound exits. So that's kind of something I did add to that. On October 9th, I attended the Kansas Mayor's Conference in Overland Park. Mayor Mike Padilla of Topeka was selected as Mayor of the Year, and Mayor Russ Kessler of Hayesville was elected as the president of the Kansas Mayor's Association for the next year. I also attended the Kansas League of Municipalities Conference, as Mr. Schmidt and Ms. Hamburg had also stated, from October 9th to the 11th. And I proposed to the league that we adopt in the legislative agenda support for proposal to mandate governing bodies work together to share the cost of maintaining shared roads. Our city attorney, Maria Schrock, did a great job representing Bel Aire's position. The committee modified the proposal to include all infrastructure along shared roads and accepted the proposal all in favor except for one person. The final vote by the governing body was unanimous. So our next steps on that issue will be prepare and present our draft legislation. And I know Ms. Schrock will do a great job with that. So on October 14th, I attended the monthly WAMPO TPD meeting. We approved Amendment 6 of the Transportation Improvement Program. That amendment included an increase in projections for the 45th Street rebuild to about $17 million, of which Bel Aire would be slated to pay an estimated additional $6 million in additional cost. We also discussed progress on safe routes to schools. Walk audits have been done on all 3 Bel Aire schools that are participating in that study. On October 15th, I attended Utility Advisory Committee. By the way, we did ask all 4 schools in Bel Aire to participate in that study. One has not decided to date to participate. On October 15th, I attended Utility Advisory Committee. They reviewed a presentation of data on historical water usage for Bel Aire, and the long-term average per capita usage is about 102 gallons per day. UAC is looking to set the aggregate target water usage at 100 gallons per capita per day on a 12-month rolling average, which is what the recommendations of the Kansas Water Department is. This can be monitored and reported in our software Bel Aire uses for utility billing. Herschel West at Waste Connections attended the meeting to get a very preliminary information on new long-term contract. Our current 10-year contract expires next year, so the UAC has some questions to ask citizens, and we're working on getting that information out to citizens so they can provide feedback to the UAC. On October 18th, I attended the Fall Fest, like several others here did. The attendance was a little down this year. I attribute that to cloudy weather and some forecasts saying it might rain. It never really did. It got a few sprinkles, but it was a decent turnout for the day. A big thank you to the Bel Aire Chamber, the Bel Aire Lions Club, and city staff for all the work they do to make this event successful. And let's remember the election day is November 4th. Early voting is here in Bel Aire City Hall, October 30th, 31st, and November 1st. I'll now ask our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the League of Kansas Municipalities Conference. Thank you. Part of that training involved a one-day with the City Attorneys Association of Kansas. They put on a great program. A lot of the focus, in my opinion, was based upon abatement cases, which was briefly brought up to the governing body. Properties that become dangerous or unsafe for many reasons. One of it could be the property owner did not have financial abilities to maintain the property. Perhaps there is some mental illness involved, a disability. Some property owners are also involved with hoarding of items. All of those can contribute to property conditions that could violate public safety, health codes. They could become a fire hazard or even a sanitation issue. The city of Bel Aire does have zoning regulations. We have code enforcement. It is possible that if that property becomes of such a degree, it could become a code violation and go to municipal court. Many cities are experiencing this, and this is a difficult situation because if the property owner doesn't have the funds to repair or upkeep the property, and the city is required to go forward and make those repairs, then the city would take on that expense. How would the city get that money back? What I really appreciated the presenter at LKM saying is you're probably as a city not going to get fully compensated for those expenses. Of course, there's always the potential to place a lien or ask for that back, but it's just not a high percentage of cities receiving that money back. That was probably the number one issue brought up. Many cities were talking about they're having to put money towards infrastructure, roads, and then this new expense is very challenging for them. The second thing I was going to comment on was I've received multiple questions, probably because of an agenda item on tonight's agenda involving ADA and accessibility. This is a very interesting subject because, of course, the ADA, it's a very broad law. It encompasses many things, but March 15th of 2012 is an important date. The reason that date is important is because all playgrounds built prior to that date could follow a certain set of ADA accessibility standards. But once March 15th of 2012 arrived, that was a mandatory compliance date for any new playgrounds that are built or any alterations made to an existing playground. Those would have to comply with the 2010 ADA standards. Those 2010 ADA standards talk about accessibility and what is compliant in regards to accessibility. As for the 2010 ADA standards, what happens if an individual makes a complaint? Then that complaint would be investigated upon. What are the consequences of a potential complaint? Of course, there could always be a lawsuit. There could always be a fine. There can be voluntary agreements between the investigator and the city, the municipality. And those voluntary agreements could be a plan, a structured plan of the municipality, knowing that there may be an issue and agreeing to comply and make those necessary adjustments. I've done a little bit of research based upon this, and I found one specific case of a city, and they had a playground that was older. It needed to have some alterations made. Some of those alterations did not comply with the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. An individual made a complaint. They made a complaint to the U.S. Department of Justice, which of course can be done online. On the basis of that investigation, there was a conversation among the parties, the municipality, the complainant, and of course the Department of Justice. And there was an agreement to enter into a promise of voluntarily complying, and all of the parties worked it out. So that's a really good example of how everyone talked to each other and moved forward. As far as what is an alteration and what is not an alteration, the ADA provides guidance on that. If you were to do normal maintenance, that would not require mandatory compliance, but anything above normal maintenance would be considered an alteration. The Department of Justice is very helpful. They have a website and they provide examples of what would be considered normal maintenance and what would be considered an alteration. And I think it's very nice that municipalities can rely upon that resource. An example of normal maintenance that the ADA provides is if you have a swing and there's an S-hook. If you replace that S-hook, that would be considered normal maintenance. That just gives you an example of the degrees of change. But those are my only comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. We may have other questions for you. Move on to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, you're probably wondering why half our staff's here tonight. I want to start my report off with the word consistency. And we've seen a lot of changes in Bel Aire. One constant thing that we've seen is excellent service in the rec center, in the rec department with our programs. It's no coincidence that one constant in the rec center has been their leader, Brian Hayes. And on Thursday, Brian will celebrate his 30th year as a Bel Aire employee. I can't imagine how many medals he's given out over the last 30 years. But I happen to made one for him tonight to give to him. On the front, it says, of course, Brian, 30 years of service, director of Parks and Rec, or director of Recreation Director. But on the back, I think it really shows what he's done for all our kids. And now I think the parents that bring their kids to the rec center, he once coached and helped. But on the back of this medal, it says, your passion has guided generations by installing the values of teamwork, perseverance, and leadership. So, Brian, you want to come up, get your medal?
And I thought everybody came to support the new pool.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
You didn't have anything else to report? Well, that was pretty big. So that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, moving on, ordinance resolutions and final actions. So the current pool filter, as Mr. Hayes had just said, is over 20 years old. Not as long as he's been here, but he knows when it was first put in. And at the end of this is at the end of its service life. Brian is not. The staff has budgeted for its replacement in the 2025 pool department budget, solicited quotes. The recreation director, Brian Hayes, is here to discuss that project and answer any questions.
Well, there's pictures of the current one. It's a good filter, but it's had 20 years of life. It's still working. It may work another year. It may work another 5 years. But I can tell you the blue fiberglass where the lever is there, see the lever, has been patched with JB Weld about 6 times. The plug to the filter, which you have to take out every year to drain the water so it doesn't freeze and break, hasn't been operable for about 5 years. So we have to do something a little different when we drain it. We have to take some hoses off and loosen some bolts down at the bottom so the water can drain out. So it's still functionable. It works fine. But if that thing gives way in the middle of the season, we're closing the pool, because it's at least an 7 to 8 week build just to build that filter. It's made in, it could be made in sterling, which we are recommending. You can buy them out of the catalog or over the counter, like that one was, but we do have a local supplier. So we're recommending purchasing a new filter, and we will install it ourselves, myself and Marty, who's here tonight too. So it's just basically unbolting that one, taking the sand out of it, putting new sand in, and bolting a new one in. Pretty simple job. So that's our recommendation. Any questions?
So just a curiosity, I remember of course, this is a personal home pool. We always had to put that demetrious earth in there and use that as a filter. Do you have to replace this sand very, very often?
The sand in that filter has never been replaced.
It's not required in that filter.
As long as it's still filtering and you don't have a break in a lateral line in it, and you don't lose that sand should be good for the life of the filter.
Okay.
And that sand has.
Great. Okay, good. Any other questions for Mr. Hayes?
I think I just want to make one comment, Mayor. Brian, I appreciate you getting with Marty. This is a good example of how we can communicate and work across the different departments. And it's nice to be able to have our staff just install this. It's an easy job. I'm sure you make it sound easy, but there's more to it than that. But I appreciate you guys working together to make it more cost effective. So thank you. And Brian, thank you for your 30 years of service too.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? If there are none, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
a motion to approve purchase contract with the United Industries Incorporated for a new pool filter as presented at an amount not to exceed $13,802 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Smith. Any question or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. On item B, this is new playground and innovation purchases. The playground North Recreation Center was built in 1996 and needs improvement. The RFP for its replacement was sent out and 2 proposals were received. Recreation Department Director Brian Hayes is here to talk about this project as well and answer questions. And this was part of it. I had asked some questions of our city attorney about, actually, I think I asked it of our city manager. He relayed them to the city attorney, but regardless, she got the questions about ADA compliance and what the rules were so that we were well informed about those rules. Hearing all that, and you may not be able to answer this question, Brian, but hearing all that, are these repairs or are these real upgrades, these improvements? If you didn't replace this, in your memo, you said you could do repairs for $20,000. But would that really classify as repair, or are those going to classify as improvements and you have to comply with the new standard? And if you don't know, that's fine. I get it.
Would it be considered an alteration? I don't know. I think it would be more of a repair because we're not changing anything. We're just we're just replacing something that's needs replaced.
Yeah,
like the
bits and
ESSA.
pieces. Yeah,
like the ESSA. My fear is if you look at the playground there and that picture is kind of small, the things that need replaced, and I think Ted did you bring those pictures? Okay, so the things that need repaired are the steps and the platforms, those darker colored things. So that you got a step from the sand to a platform, then steps to another platform, then steps to another platform. So all of that. So in all, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, and those are steel coated with rubber, and that is degrading, and those need replaced.
Okay.
They're safe now. Another year from now, that plastic covering's probably going to start flaking off. Kids are going to start picking it off. And when that happened at Brookhauser Park, the city got a bunch of calls, and Public Works, Marty went over there and fixed the ones that needed it.
Yeah.
So that piece of playground equipment that company is no longer in business. I did find a company that holds the blueprints to the patents, and they can reproduce those parts. They have to custom make each piece. So they can't, it's not on a shelf. They got to go get it. That's why it's so expensive. So, I mean, that would be a question more probably for the Justice Department or the Access Board, whether those would be an alteration. I do not know.
Okay.
Definitely an alteration would be a different surface or an additional piece of equipment.
Yeah.
That is an alteration if you change what's there.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'm not trying
does
to
that
say-
help at all?
It does help, I think. I'm not trying to say we should not replace it. I'm just saying we just need to be fully informed of what we're looking at here.
Yep.
Because I know you had a report of a $20,000 in repairs versus this is what, $97,000 for replacement. So
Quite a
that's
big difference.
quite a big difference, right? So
The higher amount is basically a brand new playground.
Right.
I mean, everything would be replaced.
Right. My one concern in that was the warranty on the plastic part, the molded plastic or blow molded plastic parts was only 3 years. That's pretty short life.
Yeah.
And I
Those
was
molded
concerned about
plastic
that.
parts are 26 years old
Yeah.
on that one. They're just degraded. They're just, you see that top, it's kind of faded, the slide. And the only piece that's ever been replaced on that playground is one of the panels that goes where the slide comes down.
So what's surprising about it is that's been there 20 years, but they're only warrantying this new one for 3 years. It's like, wow.
That's
Are they
pretty
using
much
different,
standard.
are they using different grade of plastic
That's
that doesn't
pretty much
stand up?
standard in the industry,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
They call them limited warranties.
Okay. Well, I don't need to dominate the conversation here. Anybody else got questions or comments for Mr. Hayes?
I've got a couple of questions. Is there any residual value for that equipment that if you take it out?
Scrap metal price.
Scrap metal. And the other thing, I did not see how wide the sidewalk was going to be from the parking lot.
ADA requires a 5-foot width.
Okay, I didn't see that in the contract, so that's why I was.
It is a 5-foot width.
Are we requiring 6-foot width on street sidewalks, not just 5 foot? Okay, thank you. Ms. Stevens clarified that for me. Just thank you. Ms. Hamburg.
I was just going to ask you, there's no playground equipment you can look at and not get sticker shock these days. I know that, but how did you feel about the pricing with the 97,000 for everything? Did you feel like it's good pricing for what's out there today?
You know, the pricing for the equipment itself wasn't bad, I didn't think. The surfacing was 2/3 of the project. That's the expensive part. And that's going to be with any surfacing. That, whether it's poured rubber or the artificial turf like we did at Eagle Lake.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And this is artificial turf on this one?
Artificial turf. The lifespan's about the same, expected lifespan is about the same as the poured rubber. It's just a little different and a little more modern.
Is this the same company that did Eagle Lake?
It is.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I do have a couple of questions and maybe just a comment. So just generally speaking, I know that's in our packet. Can you just describe in general so the public watching kind of understands what would a new park look like?
Be the same footprint. There's a picture of the play equipment. The play structure itself, I believe, has maybe 2 more activities than the old one. If you look at that one, it has some ground level things, which is required by ADA. You have to have so many ground level components compared to your elevated components. The shade structure, it's a little different. It is a fabric structure, and it has about a 10-year expectancy of life, which I wasn't real thrilled about. But then again, it shades that whole thing. I mean, we hear that all the time, that over some of the parks in Bel Air, it's hot, there's no shade. Well, at least that play structure is shaded, where instead of only a 4x4 section of it is. So the swing is just similar to what we have now, a 3-swing unit.
And then the other question I had, speaking of shade, is the bench or seating area. Is there any plans to shade that?
We do have benches in the structure. Right now, we have about $1,200 in donations from the Cheryl Cutter thing. She was the former city clerk for Bel Aire, who I worked with for 20 years. Her family designated her memorials at her funeral to the rec center. And we have 2 groups in the senior center that raised some money. So we've got about $1,200 that have been raised that we're going to use to plant some trees.
Oh, great. That's awesome. And then just kind of a final comment. The only concern I have with this, I mean, I love the idea of upgrading the park and getting the new surface to allow for accessibility and more, inclusiveness for other children, is just not knowing our ultimate build out with the rec center. And are we throwing away some money here that we maybe, in 5 years, this isn't even a park. But I guess I get over that concern a little bit, knowing that our rec center decision is a little further down the road. It's not going to happen overnight. And maybe this is still a city park, even if a different decision is made with the rec complex. So for those reasons, and thanks for asking the questions, I think I'll be supportive of this.
And keep in mind that this is the only playground in our quadrant of the city. There's not another city park other than Alley Park, and there's no amenities there other than the disc golf.
Well, and with ball games, I mean, there's a lot of people in that area.
And, our number one program at the rec center isn't baseball or softball. It's day camp now. And that is a requirement of day camp. We have to have a playground.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of day camp, then should we be putting in a sidewalk from that north door of the rec center to the playground instead of going through the parking lot?
The reason I don't want to do that right now, but maybe if we could do that in-house or something, the reason we don't have that now is because those kids come into the rec center with rocks in their shoes, and I don't want them dumped in that gym floor. So that was brought up years and years ago. Why don't we just build a sidewalk to that door? It's only about 30 feet, and that's why.
The new surfacing will help, right?
New surfacing would help that, and it would be a short distance to go to that door, and that could be something we could do too. Love to do that. I'd like to maybe even do it from the street, but it has a few more hurdles, because then you get into street parking, and do we have to widen the street? Do we have to do something with the curb? It would be a shorter sidewalk to the street, but is it really where the parking should be for that playground? Probably not.
Well, and it would only go to one place on the street. People park along there and they'll all park differently. So I don't think we really need a sidewalk from the street.
Yeah, the only thing I would mention is if we do add that sidewalk, and one thought would be, because there is a main crossing from the sidewalk on the opposite side of the road to the rec, and one thought would be we could add signs and a crosswalk painting just to be extra. Hey, there's a main crossing here for kids, and that's just one thought we could add if we wanted to add to that park.
And you all recall
get used more.
That in 2023, we did a master plan, and some of that we like and some of it we don't like. And this really was the first piece of that puzzle, was to make this ADA compliant and connected. So that was, wanted to just throw that out there to you too.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. David.
I just happened to be out there today taking a look at this. My grandkids play on it quite a bit. And then I took an informal poll of the two kids that were playing on it today.
Grandson number one and granddaughter.
And they said the same thing my grandkids say, is they love those little rocks. They love to jump off the swings in those little rocks. They couldn't do that on the turf. And my other big citizen that I listened to, Mrs. David, she said it needs shade, but you've already got that covered with the trees. So I'm okay with just the whatever minor alterations or repairs that we did to it. So I'm going to go cheap on this and not add a 3/4 of a mil to it. Thanks.
Ms. Hamburg, did you have a comment? Question?
This is kind of related to what Councilmember Welch said. I noticed those benches are from a Eagle Scout project from several years ago. You're not going to repurpose those anywhere. They're just going to go.
No, but I think we'll put one of the plates off one of those on one of the new benches.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because that
Sounds
wasn't
good.
quite a project for that. young
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt?
So how long would this one be down while there's this swap going on?
That's all weather dependent. You know, Eagle Lake took about a month, month and a half
Well, that's not
to
bad.
redo that.
We probably don't want to have two, the old and the new, for a short time because that takes up a lot more space. And you probably can't keep some of the old that is still in good shape and then just add the new because the ADA thing gets in the way.
Unless you build a separate playground.
Separate thing.
And the master plan does have another playground sketched in over by the pavilion, where this one would be dedicated more towards, you know, the in-house building and getting to that point.
So this age group, I mean, because what I'm seeing now that I saw at several parks in Overland Park was age basically based. So there's something for this age kids, the next age, the next. So this looks like younger.
5 to 12.
This is 5 to 12.
5 to 12.
Okay.
That is the main age that we serve at the rec center.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. who
Mr.
was-
Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we approve the purchase contract with Versus Sports LLC for the playground renovation as presented at an amount not to exceed $97,341.18 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith, or Mr. Dean, and a second by Mr. Welch. Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg?
I was just going to comment what Mr. David said. I was a little torn on this myself. We have $150,000 in there for a reason. People have been really pleased with the Eagle Lake upgrade. And Councilmember Dean got the question addressed kind of about, are we putting something in that's going to be gone shortly? Probably not. So I'm going to go ahead and support this, even though I can appreciate maybe going just the repair route. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries 4-1. Mr. David opposed. Move on to item C. So the street maintenance plan was presented as discussion at our October 14th City Council workshop. The agreement for your consideration includes fees to develop bidding documents and provide construction observation and administration services for the project. And Ms. Stevens, our city engineer, is here to discuss the project and answer questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we, after the workshop last Tuesday, I did reach out to Luke to continue the conversation a little bit. He is comfortable with the fee that was presented for the project. It is an hourly, not to exceed fee. So the work that is done, they're not going to charge us for work that is not done. I'll just put it that way. before we move forward with any repairs on Farmstead and Farmstead courts, he is working on putting a proposal together for some geotechnical drilling just to take care of Mr. Schmitz's comment and to make sure that whatever we're doing is appropriate for the area and is going to give a long-lasting finished product. Depending on what that shows, if it does show groundwater, there's going to be a much more extensive solution that is required, whether it is under drains or storm sewer or something. That will come before the council before it goes to bid. I want to make sure that you guys are well informed of what potential solutions that are provided for this area. Otherwise, you will notice on the board, the 53rd Street has been removed. That was kind of a little bit of a discussion with some in favor and some not in favor. We did go ahead and remove it. That is not currently in the scope for PEC. It is noted in the contract, but that was prepared and provided to us prior to the workshop so we could have time to run it through the checks and balances that we do before things get presented to the council. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
You took out the rebuild of 53rd, but did we leave in anything about the trees since they're causing a problem?
We didn't, we took all of that out. We did not leave the trees in there. If that is the council's wish that we include that, that would probably, if we're just removing the trees, that would probably be a separate contract that the city lets to a tree specialist and not just a general contractor.
And just to follow up more on that, so is the idea that 53rd will evaluate to do it next year? What was the real, I know it was kind of split. It wasn't slam dunk either direction. I understand that. But the idea was, let's wait and see what KDOT, well, KDOT's report is 9 months out, and that doesn't mean we're going to know exactly what's going to happen. So our decision process could be much further out than 9 months. So what is the interim solution if it continues to fall apart and is becoming more and more of a concern? What options do we have? I know we talked a lot about if you remove the trees, that's getting rid of the problem. But to remove the trees, you're probably having to also remove paving to get the roots out and to put new paving in. So I guess if it continues to get worse and we're another year down the road, what do you think the solution is? Are we just at the same spot and it's just a year later? What's the thought?
I think, if you don't mind, Dan. So the way I'm taking this is we kind of drew that line, that imaginary line, and that's what's going to go on the bid sheet. And then once we hear the bids, that's when we'll kind of, if there's money left over, that kind of thing, that's when we'll continue talking about 53rd Street. Just because if you remember in our workshop, is 1.3 million and we have 950,000. So we had to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and that one just happened to be below the line. Same with Edgemore. That was below the line. So I think what we'll do with this contract is have Luke produce the bid documents for what was above that line, and then get the bids and the quotes, and kind of like we did with this past year with 45th Street. You know, hey, we have some money left over. Let's discuss it and see if we can't just add on or look at it. This one's a little more intense with the trees and whatnot, but I think that was the general consensus, and Ann can fill in if she has something different, but that's what my vision of this was.
Got it. No, that helps.
And if the bids do come in favorably, then we can always look, as Ted said, is what we want to do. The first thought in my mind would be to hire a tree contractor to remove the trees. That would not be something that we would need bidding documents through PEC for. It could just get removed. And I've also seen and heard where the county has gone in and just kind of taken a quote unquote knife blade along the side of the road and cut all those roots so they don't continue. That's something that they have tried several times with live trees, and they have to do it about every year or so, but that's something that, could definitely, it would be a relatively inexpensive solution to try and kind of get us where we're at. And then we just kind of wait and see on 53rd. It's something that we would suggest including in 2027. If it's not done this year, depending on where we're at with KDOT's priorities and kind of their plans.
No, totally understand. Appreciate the feedback.
Another question here. I see you've also got the intersection at 53rd and Rock in green. Does that mean you're going to drop that?
No, the green is for complete reconstruction.
Okay.
So it is still included.
So you're just doing the half mile on 53rd is what's being removed right now?
That is correct.
Okay.
And then there was those little fingers that kind of came off the intersection at 53rd and Rock that were directly attached to it that are going to be taken care of as
They'll
well.
be part of the project. Okay,
Yes.
good. Because that intersection really needs help.
Speaking of intersection, just to clarify, on the Woodlawn one, I know there was some sort of a plan to put some, I don't know what you call them, wings or widen that intersection a tiny bit on the east side. Is that still sort of a part of the scope of resurfacing Woodlawn and, or not?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. We would be adding more of a radius, a larger radius curve. So when you're turning either onto 53rd from Woodlawn or onto Woodlawn from 53rd on that east side, you would have a wider area of pavement to traverse.
So on 53rd Street, so the trees are within the right of way of the city's right of way? Is that true since we're taking them out, or are they part of the property owners?
They're not being taken out at this point. I would have to double check exactly where they are. There is the city's right of way, plus there is an easement behind the city's right of way between the edge of the right of way and the property owners. So it would be, we'll have to double check, but it's something that we may need to work with Evergy to get permission or whomever's easement is over there, but it's
Trying to
it's
figure
not
out
property owner specific.
whose trees are those? That's one thing. It's,
Can we make them cut them down?
well, in some places you're not allowed to. In fact, it's the HOA says you cannot mess with the tree line. That's true of Kaplan, Bel Aire Heights anyway. So part of this discussion is if we extend the pedestrian and bike path that's on 53rd, if we extend it across, I don't know, that would be, is there room to do that? And we'd want to do it at the same time potentially whenever we do the dang road. But I'm just looking at that also. So I'm hearing there are some issues with the pipeline idea. And I'm just wondering if, since we've already got 53rd started, could we tie that in? I just hate to not do it at the same time again, if we're going to do it. I just want to throw that out there. So
that's never been in the plan
Right.
for the reconstruction and rehabilitation work. So that would be an entirely different project
Sure,
that would
sure.
take a
Yeah.
fair bit of time and effort. We'd have to go through and resurvey everything and get more detailed information so that sidewalk could be put in there.
okay.
It's
I'm just-
not just the easy
Oh, I
mill and
understand.
overlay. So
At 53rd,
Unfortunately.
hasn't, the other part hasn't been that easy either.
Those are some upgrades that we'd have to talk about at another time.
Okay,
So,
right.
Yeah.
I understand.
thank you.
And just, can you refresh, we sort of touched on the discussion about the turn lanes around Isley or maybe even further south. Where does that stand in this plan?
those revised striping improvements will be included with this.
Okay, thank you.
In relation to the restriping, so that would be for Isley. Would we want to continue further south? Because I think if we approve it there, we just move the bottleneck further south. And so then all the bottleneck's going to be down at the Resurrection School. So I don't know if the shoulders are the same, which I'm assuming they are. Should we extend that turn lane down further so we can get traffic to move through that whole area? I'm just curious, if we're going to restripe, is that an option to extend it further south?
That is very possible. It's pretty relatively simple to put the striping layout together, and I'm sure that Luke would be willing to do that within this contract and not ask for additional
I
funds.
believe I asked that question during the workshop.
You did?
Okay.
Okay.
And he said that the the road width just wasn't there to do that.
Okay,
He didn't think he could do that.
okay.
He wanted to check.
Yeah, he did want to check. So let's check and just make
Sure.
sure that that's
Okay,
still
make sure
the
it's good.
case. But he
Fine.
didn't think it was there.
Tom, I agree, because when we first came up with this idea earlier in the year, one of my thoughts was, could it just be from 45th to 53rd? Because
Yeah,
the issue
just-
with changing lanes, especially between Isley and even Resurrection, is, you don't want too much of this.
Right, you don't want to
So
go in and out.
if
and
there
in and
is a
out.
way to make it safe and stripe it
Yeah.
the whole distance, I think there's enough left turn action into neighborhoods, into Resurrection, into Isley. Isley's at the intersection, so it's sort of the focus here, but it doesn't
Sure.
have to be. It can be the entire width if we believe it's safe enough and he can restripe it. I would tend to be in favor of just restriping the whole thing personally, if we're going to do it. And if it's not a big cost increase.
Yeah.
But
The
I think a
only-
big issue too is coordinating a little bit with Keychai, which I assume that's not going to be an issue, but we have to have those conversations. So
And the only thing that I would add is our geotechnical investigation was focused on Isley. That's where
Sure,
we took
I
the
understand.
cores. So I do know there is a pavement difference when you get to about the half-mile line, meaning that one was paved at one time and then at some point later, the other piece was paved. So I would just like to have PEC come out and take a few more cores. I don't remember the specific cost, but I think it was $2,000 to $3,000 to have them take, I think the 6 or whatever course that they did. I don't have that information in front of me, but just something that I'd like to have that pursued as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, of course, but I think first thing is, do you have the road width? Because before you take a
Correct.
course, doesn't no
Oh,
sense
correct.
taking course if
Yep.
the road that isn't there.
Right.
totally
So,
agree.
yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we approve contract with PEC for the 2026 street maintenance plan as presented at an amount not to exceed 115,000 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
a motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. David. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. On item D, this new office furniture for the new Public Works facility. As construction nears our new Public Works facility comes near completion, it's time to purchase a few pieces of furniture to supplement what we already have. The city manager will answer your questions.
Had a big year, and oh yeah, we're building a new public works facility while we're at it. So it's exciting that next Tuesday they're going to go through the punch list and get this place done, and then we can start making it our own piece by piece. This is kind of the first furniture purchase piece. Marty and John's office, we're able to get some new furniture for them down at their current existing facility a few years ago. We're going to continue to utilize that in the new facility, but we do need some chairs, some break room stuff, and that's basically what you see here. I don't know how much time we want to spend on this purchase, but that's where I'll leave it, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
I'd just like to say I appreciate that we're trying to reuse some of our not so old equipment.
Right.
It's the Bel Aire way, yeah.
Any chance we get, we should do that. Yes. Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David,
I'll motion to approve purchase contract with Galaxy Business Equipment for office furniture as presented at an amount not to exceed $17,533.18 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any other questions or discussion? There are none. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. We're ready to move on to executive session. So we're asking 20 minutes for the first executive session. And I believe Neil Ghosh is here, but Ms. Kalimsky will not be with us tonight. So we do not need to invite her to this.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg,
said 20 minutes, correct?
20 minutes, please.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to recess into executive session to discuss with legal counsel and receive legal advice related to pending litigation The discussion will be pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for legal consultation with Neil Gosh, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite in Neil Gosh, city manager, city attorney, and city engineer. The meeting will be for a period of 20 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 8:30 p.m.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're in executive session for 20 minutes. We have an executive session, no binding action was taken. We'll move on to our next executive session item. We're asking 10 minutes for that, and the notes that you have inadvertently left out are city engineers, so please include the city engineer in the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we recess into executive session for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property. The discussion will be pursuant to KSA 75-4319B6. Invite the city manager, city attorney, and city engineer. The meeting will be for a period of 10 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 8:43 PM.
Second.
motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Executive session for another 10 minutes. Okay, we held an executive session, no binding action was taken. Ready to move on to item 13, discussion and future issues. And I think maybe you have
Yep,
something
I
you
got
wanted to talk
one.
about?
November workshop falls on Veterans Day, the 11th of November. I pulled a lot of our staff. We don't have anything so pressing that we need in front of you. And we cut off spending in October to clean up the books. So I think we'll have some time in regular council meetings if we do want to bring an item to you. It's up to the will of the council, but if you choose not to bypass the November workshop, that would, or reschedule, up to you. But I just want to give you that option.
I'm going to make a comment that it's going to be right after the election. You will have at least one new council member. Maybe you don't want to have the workshop until you've seated the new council member.
It's a possibility.
We've traditionally canceled our December workshop, so
Traditionally.
maybe just flip flop them.
Yeah.
So is that the consensus? We want to cancel the workshop? Do we need to take a formal action on that?
I don't,
It's not a formal meeting, so.
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, just to follow up, so if we're flip flopping, is December's meeting, like what would the focus of November's be? Would it be a CIP plan priority discussion or?
I've got a list.
What would be our, I guess what I'm saying is we shouldn't assume December, maybe December's not a good month either. If
Yeah.
there's not something pressing, anyway, we don't need to make that decision tonight. I'm just suggesting mid-December can be a busy time for people,
Yeah.
so.
We
That might
can,
not
we can
be a good
decide
month.
that in December. I'll bring you the list and we'll
Okay.
see what we want to
Sounds
tackle.
good.
You might also consider having the workshop later in November after seating the new council, like on the 25th or something.
We
That's
won't seat the
Thanksgiving.
council
That's
until
December.
December.
You would seat a new member on the 18th.
Of November?
Of
We've never done
November.
that. We've always been in first
Assuming
meeting in
the
December.
election results are final.
It's always been the first meeting in December, and I think that is in our charter ordinance.
Oh, I was thinking it was in November. Excuse me.
So,
Yeah,
is that a consensus then to
I think so.
cancel it for November and we'll revisit December as we get closer? Okay, very good.
The second thing, and I didn't really want to say it in my manager's report, hallway of the rec center had a leak about a month ago.
Mhm.
The leak stopped for 2 weeks. Wouldn't you know it, the night before Fall Fest, the leak showed right back up. So Brian and I grabbed about 20 towels Saturday morning and everything went off on plan. About 7 o'clock that night on Saturday, the leak really showed up again. And Marty was out there till 1, shutting off the rec center water because we didn't have a water shut off by the meter, believe it or not. So anyway, the rec center's without water right now, or yesterday and today. We have a professional plumber out there trying to fix the issue without having to drill into the concrete, which I think they found a way to do it. But I'll have more of an update as we progress through this week so that I can tell you what all they're doing. But they all have all precautions in place, portable bathrooms, hand washing and bottled water. But the good part is we're kind of in between sports seasons. So there's really not a lot of activity other seniors playing pickleball and a lot of that stuff. So it actually hit at the right time, but these things happen as you operate, 3 or 4 facilities.
But you did determine it was a actual water leak and not a.
Yeah. When
not
Marty got
percolating from the ground.
when Marty got the main shut off, everything stopped. So that was a good sign.
Okay.
We isolated the problem.
Or at least partially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's okay here, it's not over here.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of shut-offs within the building would be a good insurance for the future.
We have found that in this building, that additional shut-offs were needed. And they have been added, but maybe that's needed over there as well. All right. Anything else that we need to discuss?
I motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch to adjourn,
Second.
and a second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.